It's debate season, and it will probably be debate season for many, many months to come. But I love this stuff. And if you know anything about me, you know that I like to spend just a little bit of time looking at some of the highlights and the lowlights of recent debates. It doesn't matter which side. We're not getting political here, but always looking for different ideas and things that we can use, right, in our own presentations and how we can influence our audiences to come around to our way of thinking. That's what drives this. So, I was watching some of the debates last night, and more importantly, looking at the highlights on the internet today, and I found a few clips that I wanted to share with you and tell you what I think. So, let's see, we're going to start with Mr. Ted Cruz, and he's using something that I like to call balance. Balance in a presentation is a great way of putting two things together in a very balanced way to inform an audience of how they should be thinking. So here is the Ted Cruz example.
You know, back in September, my friend Donald said that he had had his lawyers look at this from every which way, and there was no issue there. There was nothing to this birther issue. Now, since September, the Constitution hasn't changed. But the poll numbers have.
So, of course, for those of you that just don't follow this stuff, this is Donald Trump saying that Ted Cruz, because he wasn't born in the United States and he was born in Canada, might not be eligible to be president of the United States. Okay, so that's the angle. And what was smart here was a kind of use of humor, but the use of balance. So Ted Cruz says, since September, the Constitution hasn't changed on one hand, but your poll numbers have on the other hand. This is the balance. And when you state an idea, a concept, a piece of humor, something you're really trying to push hard in a form of balance, it actually has people consider it in almost a more intellectual way. For example, you as a speaker could say, better customer service is going to produce smarter customer results. 1, 2. If we give people ideas they can use, they might actually go out there and use them. 1, 2. Try to find ways to position your statement, your comments, your ideas on one hand and the other, even though actually both of them are saying the same thing. A sense of balance is something that works really well in a presentation. Next up, what have we got? Yes, it's Chris Christie. Chris Christie had pretty good debate last night, and for those of you watching in the future, this is January 2016, he was very humorous in one of his comments on President Obama's State of the Union speech. The State of the Union speech had happened only a few days earlier and was very positive, and the outlook was really wonderful. Now, of course, this particular group of Republican hopefuls had very different opinions on the state of the economy and the state of the world. And Chris Christie, I thought, delivered a very humorous way of getting the message across that Obama is wrong and that everybody else on the Republican side is right. Here it is.
Well, Maria, I'm glad to have heard from you in the summary of that question about what's going on in the world, because Tuesday night I watched Story Time with Barack Obama, and I got to tell you, it sounded like everything in the world was going amazing, you know?
Tee-hee, Story Time with Barack Obama. Right, a little bit of humour, it got the audience laughing, but what's interesting is he created a label that you just wouldn't normally associate with a State of the Union speech, such a high and mighty and lofty position and moment. And there he is, calling it, labelling it, story time. And that's something that then people will talk about. People will take that label and use it as discussion. So again, what can you label elements of your presentation with? Find cutesy little names, little monikers, little tags. They don't always have to be humorous. They certainly don't need to be condescending like that one was. But you need to come up with little names to help people understand what it is you're pushing forward. And when you give those things, those labels, those names, then everyone in the audience finds it easier to remember. And if it's easier to remember, it's easier to share with other people. Next up, I am often asked, how do you win an audience over? What is it that you do that has an audience actually decide to like you? Because believe it or not, and this is a cruel and awful reality of the speaking world, audiences start up mostly by hating you first. They hate you before you even begin. So you have to win them over. Why? Because you're trapping them, they're all enclosed in a dark space, and who on earth are you? Unless you're a top celebrity, they don't know who you are. And so you have to win them over. And even if you are a CEO or a CMO or a CFO, you still have to win them over. Why are you taking their time? You're about to prove it. Okay, so back to the question. How do you win people over? I am asked. And the answer very often is to self-deprecate. In other words, take yourself down a peg or two. Make fun of yourself. This is what I do all the time. I make a joke about the fact that I was on television in the UK and nobody ever watched. And they laugh and then they're like, okay, we'll listen to you now. Ben Carson, current contender, obviously had read the stories from people, from critics, saying that he looks like he's half asleep. He looks like he's kind of switched off a lot of the time. So he chose to use a bit of self-deprecation in the form of humour, and actually I think he did pretty well. This is what he did.
Well, I'm very happy to get a question this early on. I was going to ask you to wake me up when the time came.
Very funny. He got a laugh, and that's really important. It really warms people up to you when you can use a bit of self-deprecating humour. And here's the thing, you've got to be honest with yourself. What are people probably saying about you? If it's your own team, you know what they say, so make a joke about that. If you say it before they do, you'll get the laugh, you seem more real, and here's the bonus, people are more prepared to listen to you. But word of warning, if you do deliver a great joke, don't laugh at it yourself. I mean, you can go, little snuffle, that's fine, but nothing else. Don't have a huge belly laugh at your own joke, because that takes the edge off just a touch. Next up, do you know something that I have to guard against all the time? It's speaking too quickly. I said that really slowly because I do it all the time. I speak too quickly and I have to take it down a notch. Very important. When you want to be president of the United States, you have to be understandable. And frankly, that applies to all of us. And in our excitement to tell people things that we really care about, that we're really passionate about, sometimes, like Marco Rubio, we talk too fast. Have a look.
Yeah, I would go, first of all, one step further in this description of Hillary Clinton. She wouldn't just be a disaster. Hillary Clinton is disqualified from being Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
Slow down, Marco. Slow it down. You can still get all this great content out, but when you slow down, people can follow you. And by the way, if you talk too quickly, your mind can't keep up with your mouth and you trip up over a word, like this.
Barack Obama believes that America is an arrogant global power that needs to be cut down to size.
Keep a control on pace and things get much better. That's it for this debate roundup. I hope you found it useful. Did you see something that was perhaps even more interesting? Let me know. Get in touch. Stay in touch. And I'll see you next time.